Yo, welcome back everybody, it's your man Jake, aka Lenin's Sorcerer's Apprentice here with another jog video. You're watching gameplay footage and listening to my wonderful voice rant about all kinds of topics. In this video, I'm going to be talking about America, and a huge reason why Americans just fundamentally need to change. Let's just jump right in. As I'm sure anyone watching already knows, the economic and societal conditions are worsening in America, and the country has never been more fragile. Unprecedented levels of inequality now exist, and after many generations of ignorance, workers are finally waking up. The horrors and abuses of capitalism are beginning to reveal themselves, and it's no longer refutable. Denial becomes an ever-weakening response by the day. But there does seem to be an issue. As my fellow Yanks are starting to realize, the working class in America isn't exactly blameless for the state of the country. For decades and decades, generation after generation, anti-communism and the vacuum of true political understanding sits in the belly of this American imperial beast. The rise of socialism and communism and success of the Soviet Union in the early 20th century marked a genuine threat to American global hegemony. Vietnam, China, Cuba, other Soviet nations, and growing left influence all around the world continues to this day, showing vibrant and strong colors, strengthening the possibilities of a working class party running any kind of nation. In reaction to this, American capitalist bourgeois masters began and continue a century-plus-long campaign against the Red Wave. They employed an array of strategies, including wars fought in all areas, all around the world, occupations, assassinations, covert operations, in search of acquiring resources cheaply or threatening nations into submission. A massive multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar, media complex spans the misinformation created from Western news. In addition, entertainment and content creation endlessly produces neoliberal-inspired perspectives, seeping their influence into every facet of American TV, movie, and video culture. Sitcoms, thrillers, horrors, crime movies, and TV shows, action heroes from the FBI and CIA, dozens and dozens and dozens of police shows, pseudo-reality TV and former bounty hunting shows, appraisal shows, cooking shows, and morning America and late-night talk shows. Look me in the effing eye and tell me these things don't influence the way that the viewers think, feel, and live. For years and years and years, antagonists in American films were evil Slavic people, Chinese or Russian people, East Asian peoples or West Asian peoples who were often undergoing massive revolutionary changes at the height of their media exploitation of stereotypes. There is always a group of people in the United States to choose for its current purposes of hate, and that hatred is not just for ethnic groups but also the revolutionary movements in those parts of the world that the U.S. disgraces too. Unfortunately, the conditions in America are, in many ways, our fault, and despite the growing need for workers' liberation, especially in the imperial core, being at an all-time high, things could continue to be more confusing. While it's inarguable that American working people are certainly and deeply exploited under capitalism, and it's also inarguable this exploitation exists for the vast majority of Americans, as they too suffer from this modern indentured servitude we find ourselves, nonetheless it becomes important, or it is important, to dialectically analyze the modern American material conditions, to understand the role of the American proletariat and their importance in the imperial core of the largest capitalist superpower in the history of the planet. Because we, Americans, absolutely have a role in revolution. Let's face it, fact of the matter is, Americans just simply benefit in one way or another from the labor aristocracy created by world elites. This argument proves itself easily, and so much of what Americans blindly pride themselves for building or building off of is just taking credit for horrible actions or the actions of others, both good and bad. The entire country of America, for example, itself is a conquered land, beautiful and amazing in its already natural state, taken over by literal white supremacist, religious fundamentalist, patriarchal and state capitalist imperialists and their sympathizers. The American elites took whatever they wanted from this new world, and the American working class shortly followed in their footsteps. This occurred in part due to the lack of any ethical options for the working class when living in an imperialist country as a member of that society. People are constantly seeking respite from the exploitation, anything for a little slice of life, even at the cost of others. All of the natural materials, raw resources, etc., and even much of the agricultural knowledge from indigenous Americans was also taken by American power interests and then subsequently used for our own purposes. During the atrocities of slavery's legal presence in America, even as slavery continues to exist in America in all kinds of ways, cotton, for example, became a widely used resource for the American economy for Northerners and Southerners alike. Note that at the time, while the North had banned slavery in legal terms, the Northern economy still actively benefited from slavery, and particularly during early American history and all the way up to the Industrial Revolution and even onward after that, white supremacy has been an absurdly and viciously powerful cultural force in America. It functioned as a buffer. The white working class could maintain its status as the dominant chosen members plucked from capitalism's favorite reserve army of labor, and this assisted the continuity of white supremacy in the face of any strides made by any non-white Americans. Another example is access to an intercontinental cross-country connected highway and road system, built for the secret reason of military weapon and vehicle transportation, which also then justified to continue profits of the mass-polluting car industry. All of this benefits Americans in every day in all kinds of transportation-related ways. To more examples of media, the entertainment industry created by the United States employs workers and molds them with fame and wealth. The phenomenon of celebrity and its infamy become a packaged Willy Wonka golden ticket-esque dream to sell actors, musicians, particularly annoying clowns in reality entertainment, chefs, athletes of sports and esports alike, directors, religious figures, politicians, the list goes on and on. Anything and everything American in entertainment creates and exports an image of this country. Other people around the world, inside the country and outside the country, are drawn in with intrigue to the commercialized imagery. Inside the country, so many Americans indulge in the healing fantasies of wishful capitalist rags to riches success stories, dreaming like Cinderella victims of their own stories. The imaginations born from desperate workers working their asses off at their jobs, wishing for a fairy godmother figure type to give them everything they want. To any non-American skeptics, you'd be surprised how popular this mentality is. Outside of the country, after the fascistic imperialist American state is done destroying and harming the nations these migrants were raised, the American empire then advertises the flashy slavery conditions of the modern day in our country to these exploited workers. This provides a steady supply, inside and outside the country, of a reserve army of labor, expendable for use and abuse at the leisure of these tyrants of avarice. Yet another example. America consumes a massive portion of the world food supply, but throws away up to 40%. We suffer from both food insecurity and rampant cases of obesity. Wartime economies, up until the last few decades, have propelled massive domestic success for America, and it has been a consistent tactic for the politicians of power and oligarchs of this country. This wartime economy does not start and stop in the terms of war. American invasions of West Asia continue to this day in all kinds of ways. The massive digital technology boom in America within the last 2 decades has been largely fueled by raw materials taken from overexploited nations like the Congo, providing cobalt for batteries, and on top of all kinds of other resources just from the Congo alone. Even if most of working Americans suffer on the local level, we are not free from the benefits of imperialism, being citizens of the dominant empire. Our hands are not clean. This doesn't mean that working class struggles in America are illegitimate. It doesn't mean our problems aren't real. It just means we need to analyze our material conditions to create an accurate understanding of our reality to ensure and conduct a successful revolution. And while other places around the world may have similar rags to riches, sudden fame stories, the United States modeled and has truly mastered this almost genius tool. If you're still not buying my position that Americans just simply benefit from the labor aristocracy, then let me further give these examples. Everywhere you go, capitalism has successfully manifested the full spectrum of expression for consumerism. No matter what product or service Americans seek to consume, there is guaranteed to be options for them. We have car dealerships on every corner for SUVs, flashy trucks, up-to-date and newly shipped features of cars, while many destroyed nations do not have a countrywide road system yet. We have batteries, phones, television and computer screens, LED lights, prototype holograms. We have finger recognition for our electronic screen phones, voice recognition in addition to widespread internet access, fast food along with grocery and convenience stores, stores are also everywhere to be found. Even if the capitalist domination demands payment for food, the accessibility is still present. Our movies and television shows made with the latest exciting trends, the makeup, the filters. If you can't see this, you're blind. It's all right there in front of us. It's clear, to me at least, workers enjoy, in America, more benefits and privileges than others. This is yet another strategy of capitalism and a strategy of many previous exploitive modes of production. These strategies pit the masses against each other by whatever means necessary to keep the profits rolling. As I mentioned, and I'm sure many of you can already see, many Americans are waking up, but not enough people see the proper reason why things are going wrong. Americans need to realize our problems are not unique. The modern generations of Americans have now lived through multiple decades of neoliberal and neoconservative late-stage capitalism and its superstructure, but many people still dismiss the meaning of socialism and its political utility. At the same time, they will allege some kind of alternative route is better than socialism or communism could be, but these lines of thinking end in the most despicable conditions humanity has ever seen, for example, like fascism, or now the concerning politics of anarcho-capitalism rising in the recently elected milieu in Argentina. Americans need to unlearn American exceptionalism and individualism. We need to realize we are not special, that we're not different, but we can still manifest an American socialism, one that is tethered and tailored by the working class people, despite this issue. Most struggling Americans working right now are united by a near universal experience of poor treatment. Across the board, profession after profession, all of these occupations are revealing themselves to be unsustainable. Just to give some examples, customer service workers, managers, administrators in so many different sectors, bus drivers, technicians, custodians, clinicians, therapists, recently rail workers, Amazon warehouse and delivery workers, Starbucks baristas, healthcare staff like nurses and physicians, teachers, actors, and writers have gone on strike, delivery drivers. All of this work and the workers with them are enduring terrible conditions for virtually nothing. And while some of them have gone on strikes, not much of it has actually come to fruition in success. And we haven't really acknowledged the elephant in the room. Americans keep going to work. Despite how terrible things are getting, there seems to be very specific material conditions to be what is effectively a subconscious force subjugating the American masses. A bad attitude pervades the average American worker's mind, speaking to them in their heads like intrusive thoughts sung from capitalism's worst abusers. If I just work a little harder, stick at it for another day, keep myself going with some vices here and there, it'll all work out, and myself and or my family will be secure and stable, and I'll live a happy life. But my fellow Americans, my comrades, all people listening, is this true? Is any of this even partially representative of the American average day life? In other words, has a single working class American successfully achieved this lifestyle without exploiting other people? For every American who claims the American dream worked for them, there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people who worked infinitely harder than those smug Americans, only to be imprisoned in poverty all the same. There's a strong F you, I got mine mentality infecting the souls of the American working class. A self-concerned, survivalist attitude influences every individual in the so-called God's country. Now, I'm sure many of you will note this problem of selfishness in humanity is not exclusive to Americans. However, my argument isn't so much exclusively developed around the concept of selfishness. Rather, I believe it is a kind of libertarianism, a hyper-individualism that has grown in these millions and millions and millions of people. And yet, American culture has a strong anti-human vein in its body. There is a strong presence of being annoyed with other people who aren't your family. Film and TV shows regularly have quips and dialogues, characters with a general state of inability, all exemplifying a general hostility towards even the friendliest of strangers. There's a common theme of suburban homes existing as a kind of modest and modern castle where nowadays Americans can install surveillance systems to spy on outsiders in their own gated communities. Americans and running from their problems is nothing new. From Pilgrims to the American Revolution, to expansion of little houses on the prairie, to the urbanization and migration of peoples into industrial supercities, and then the subsequent white flight into the countryside and suburbs after the end of World War II, and rising civil rights struggles of African Americans and other groups. And now, within the last few years, Americans have even been able to entitle themselves to vaccine skepticism, lack of mask use, and over 1 million Americans died from COVID because of it, and feeling deserving of just getting the pandemic over with already. Ladies and gentlemen, and you beautiful non-binary people, what in the actual hell is this country? How is this people coming from what they think to be as these hard-working, gritty backgrounds exist on a pretty significantly spoiled ground? Why aren't Americans able to see the commonalities they all have in each other, and why can't they see the natural solidarity and unity they already possess amongst one another? I'll give you your answer. When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression, and that's the basic idea. Commodity production in America has been brilliantly crafted to gain wealth for the bourgeois masters, to give those wage slavery corpo bucks we call our currency to the American people, only for workers to spend their hard-earned money on the same monopoly-made products, all created for profit. A kind of borderless company town exists as the entirety of this nation. Go to work and subscribe to Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, HBO Max for content and entertainment. Go to work and buy a new toy off Amazon. Go to work and smoke weed or drink some alcohol. Go to work and pay for your funeral and the funerals of others. Go to work and buy food and drink from Arby's, Wendy's, McDonald's, Chipotle, KFC, Chick-fil-A, Burger King, White Castle, Culver's, Steak and Shake, Panera, Wingstop, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, the list goes on and on and on. Go to work and get your groceries from Sam's Club, Walmart, Aldi, Target, Costco, Jewel, Kroger's, Joseph, Sullivan's, etc. Go to work and buy your needed prescription from Walgreens and CVS. Go to work and purchase maintenance for your vehicle despite not having much of a choice to get around in a different way. This country is so sick to its core, and commodity production makes that so much worse. And it's time to overthrow the government and corporations and build something new and better for us all. Consumerism has filled our existential holes in our being as our dying values and community connections slowly fade away. The monopoly of these corporate giants has imperialized and commercialized Americans. The work expectations of this imperial core, the most powerful and wealthiest empire in the history of the world, have become deeply ingrained in a system that uses workers, abuses them, neglects them, and tosses them aside when the system no longer needs their labor. Our employers cycle through reserves of labor, plucking impressionable and eager to please, good-meaning people only to drain every last drop of life out of them, just to print more green rectangles. After workers are made exhausted and burnt out after work, we spoil them with tricks and treats, toys, gadgets, knickknacks, and the sort. Every aisle in an American grocery store has 30-plus different brands, versions, flavors, sizes, and iterations imaginable. And so, as long as Americans salivate at every newest and shiniest commodity to buy and substitute the place in their hearts where solidarity and unity and community is supposed to go, so long as this keeps happening, our lives are going to continue to slowly get worse. Ask any American what their idea of self-care is, and I can guarantee you it will be very difficult for them to give you an example that doesn't require money. Unhealthy sweets and treats and snacks, a super cool PC part upgrade, a new game console, improvements to the man cave in the garage or newly acquired only to be twice worn expensive women's clothing, massages, spray and fake tans, lip fillers and Botox, bar and club culture, Americans' favorite TV show tailored to whatever the given times are. There is an endless supply of distractions for Americans. These distractions become commodities to sell, advertisements built individually for each specific consumer. And if every American can feast on anything they could want, identify with whatever band or movement or movie or show or game they want, dress themselves up in whatever of their favorite bands, date and objectify whichever pretty person in media, drink or smoke their very real worries away, watch their favorite teams or favorite couple on reality TV, and maybe sleep well with a cocktail of melatonin and Xanax. With all of these things to keep us in chains, why would anyone ever do revolution? American culture is just consumerism, and we must unbind ourselves from our states of being to realize what we have become. The good news, all of this excess, all of this luxury, all of this leisure in the second Gilded Age has only created Gen Z, one of the most resilient generations out there, a generation despite the portrayals in media with a moral compass quickly developing from a will made of iron. People in general are aware of how completely unhealthy social media is. Popularizations of intermittent fasting and healthier eating are widening. Exercise is becoming increasingly popular. Mental health and self-care at the forefront of my generation's values. We care about people being seen. We care about tolerance and acceptance. We are growing to understand each other, to cherish our differences and bring everyone together all the same. There's a deep urge and call in each of us to have a grand connection to and for us all. While there are certainly plenty of young people who aren't exactly helping, it seems to me and many others that the zeitgeist of this 21st century generation demands higher standards. Personally, I find it kind of inspiring. Years and years of bickering in YouTube and Twitter comments, political discourse thrusted onto the American people from the clown fiesta of Trump's presidency, decades and decades and decades of Red Scare propaganda and anti-communism in the media. All for what? Gen Z is strong. We were raised on school shooting drills and actual school shootings. We have had access to all the information and misinformation ever created. Our formative years were spent exposed to every person's potential thoughts across the world online and on social media. We were asked what we wanted to be when we grow up, only to find our adulthood would be met with some of the most dystopian societal conditions in human history. Except now, this time, we understand. The American apathy, the complacency that so many Americans have had for such a long, long time is finally dying. This corrupt and evil empire, taking whatever it wanted for so long, is beginning its slow decline. There is great hope coming for the end of this terrible, powerful empire. Its walls will fail, and the people contained will be set free, and set the rest of everything inside the nation free as well. The citizens inside its core are waking up to the world hidden from us. The last vestiges of American values pointing towards isolationism and excessive self-sufficiency are washing away, and the 21st century and its youngest generations are showing a promising and truly bright future and hope for humanity. We reject this world that is getting worse when it should be getting better, and it's our time to inherit and rebuild the world that we love and cherish so dearly. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far and you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to comment and let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate the time anyone would give to watch my content, and I really am grateful for the viewership and engagement. Take care, everybody watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace, and thank you again.